Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Virtual Wheelchair Track Camp at U of I. And we're going to be working with Miss Jenna Fesemyer today for our strength workout. Jenna's been an elite athlete here at U of I for 5 years. She's just recently was a Para-Pan Am athlete, and she is a top 10 finisher for Boston Marathon, Chicago Marathon, and what else am I missing? New York City Marathon. So she knows what she's doing. She's going to be going through the exercises with you. I'm going to quickly run through the exercises that we're going to be doing with you guys. We have 5 mobility exercises. There's going to be 15 reps, 1 set of back versus wall rainbows, 1 set of 15 reps for pillow foam roll IYTs, 1 set of 15 for foam roll alternate high-low, 1 set of 15 for alternate backstroke pass behind the back, 1 by 15 military stretch versus wall, and then we're going to go into 3 stabilization exercises. They're all going to be 2 by 8. We're going to have bear crawl, scap protraction, retraction, prone dowel shoulder press, side wall climbs with overhead arm bar, 3 force exercises with 2 by 8 or 10 push-ups. Same for the bag tricep extensions, and 2 by 15 seconds bag bottle reverse fly. And then we're going to cool down with 2 preventative exercises, 2 by 8 ulnar nerve floss and 2 by 10 full can. Now our exercises or our workouts are laid out this way because with our athletes, we want to ensure the longevity of not only their athletic careers, but also make sure that their overall quality of life and daily function is maintained. Our athletes put a lot of strain on their shoulders, just like you guys do when you're pushing all day, and then you're also doing your sport-specific training. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on mostly on the mobility and stabilization of their upper body and those shoulder joints. So while we're doing the workouts today, I'm going to show you guys what type of equipment we're going to be using. So we have the privilege of being in the gym for the workout. So Jenna will be using some dumbbells and like a discus and a nice dowel here. But if you're doing it at home, there's a lot of different ways that you can implement the same type of weight through these exercises. We have like a little half-liter bottle of water, but it was smoothie, so you can use that. We have a nice big jug of Sanazide. This could be like a jug of milk or juice or something like that that you can use at home, or like a 1-gallon jug of water. And to mimic the discus, I have a Frisbee here. We also have a paper plate. Just what's most important for a lot of these movements is just focusing on the actual movement and ensuring that you have that mind to muscle focus through the different exercises. For the dowel, you can also use like a broomstick or a mop or something like that. Okay. So Jenna's going to go in. We're going to start the workout now. Jenna's going to go through her first mobility exercise, which is back versus wall rainbows. The focus here for Jenna is to maintain pressure against the wall, and she's going to be activating her back, her rear delt, which is like the back of her shoulders, while she's maintaining pressure, going through that whole range of motion. She's not going very fast. She's focusing on really stretching out those muscles and warming up. Now, normally during the exercise, they would start their workouts with 5 to 10 minutes on a UBE. You could do it if you have like a hand cycle at home or something like that. If it's like stationary, you could also warm up on that. And then they'll do a series of different stretches that we can show you during the cool down of the workout. And just a reminder, we're not going to be doing any type of rest through these mobility movements. We're just going to go through the movements one by one to get that body nice and warmed up. So she's done with her back versus wall rainbows. How did that feel, Jenna?
Oh, great. Great. Warmed up.
So now Jenna's going to do the pillow foam roll IYTs. Now she's going to demonstrate how she's going to turn the pillow into a foam roller. She's going to roll it up tight, just like you would a sleeping bag if you've done that before. She's going to roll that nice and tight into a cylinder. And we're just showing, we have foam rolls here, but we're just showing you guys what you can do at home to mimic a foam roller. And she's going to line that pillow right down her spine. So as you can see, it's right down the middle of her back. And this is lifting her shoulders off of the flat surface. And she's going to go through her I and go into Y and T right after that. And the main goal is to make sure that she gets that nice big range of motion. She gets to go a little farther down that plane that she's laying down on. So her shoulders get to get a much better stretch. Her pecs are getting a good stretch as well in her chest. Jenna, what are some things that you focus on while you're doing this?
I actually just focus on the stretch. I really like having the pillow or like the foam roll underneath my back because I feel like that opens up my shoulders quite a bit. So I just focus on that. And you know, if balance is an issue too, then just focusing on balance would be a good point as well. So yeah.
Right. This is also going to be a lot easier to balance for those of you that have limited function, especially core function. The pillow is going to squish down quite a bit with your body weight, so it's going to give you a nice flat surface. It can be pretty challenging if you're using something like a pool noodle or a foam roller. The reason why we go through these 3 different movements as well is just creates a different range of motion for that shoulder joint. We don't want to focus on just one movement specifically. It's okay. And you can see here where Jenna's kind of getting her stretch when she's opening up into that T. Oh, that's okay. I'm sorry. When she's opening up into that T, she's squeezing her scaps together, and she's getting a good activation there just to make sure she's getting the most out of that range of motion for her pecs or her chest. Next exercise is a foam roll alternate high-low. So she's going to keep that pillow behind her to use as a foam roller. And she's going to alternate high-low between both arms. Okay, so we got a good question here. Will this exercise be good for spinal cord injured athletes as well? Yes, it will. We do these exercises with all of our athletes here at U of I. For those athletes that have spinal cord injury, sometimes balance can be an issue, and that's just something that the athlete's going to have to learn how to adapt with. It's a lot of trial and error. The pillow really does adapt well to that scenario just because it can flatten out to allow for better balance. Okay, next it's military stretch, first wall. So here Jen is also maintaining pressure against the wall. You can hear her sliding up against it. And Jenna's going to try and, yeah, that's good. She's going to try and get just past 90 with her elbows and then push up. Just to maintain that full range of motion there with the shoulders. Jenna, have you noticed a difference as you've been implementing these type of mobility movements in your training?
Over time?
Yeah, over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not a daily wheelchair user, but I have noticed a difference in my posture over time as well. And I think that these exercises
even these exercises offer a lot of core strengthening as well. And so that's something I've noticed over time as well. So.
Good. Okay, so we're going to move into our stabilization movements. Jenna's going to go into her bear crawl, and it's a scapular protraction retraction. So it's almost like going into a knee push-up position, or you can imagine just being a bear on all fours. And she's going to just lower her upper body using her scaps. You can notice her elbows are staying, or her arms are in full extension. They're not bending, going into flexion at all. And her scaps are what's lifting her torso up and down. Now, if your athlete does have a spinal cord injury, this is also possible to do. Sometimes widening the knees for a wider base of support is necessary, or even just going off of the bench and using the bench to support their lower body and them with their hands on the ground. You can see here, Jenna, I want you to try and keep your back a little straighter there when you're pushing up. Nice. When Jenna's going to that protraction, you can see her scaps stretching over her back, just like that. So when she's pushing up, you can see her scaps sliding along her back like this, opening up her back, getting a really good stretch. And then when she's relaxing, she's also getting a good stretch here in her anterior delts. Good. And now she's going to go into her prone dowel shoulder press. So this is where you can, at home, you would be able to use a broomstick or a mop, or I'm from Canada, so I would do this with a hockey stick pretty regularly. And the goal of this movement is to lift her arms up over her head, and she's going to press up. So in traditional military press back in the day, this is how they would do a military press, bringing the bar behind their back, but it can actually be pretty detrimental to the shoulders. So laying down like this in a prone position takes a lot of that gravitational strain off the shoulders, and it focuses on the stabilization of the movement. And she's getting a really good range of motion here, bringing that dowel down behind her head. Just try not to hit your head. So this is excellent scapular activation. Do you feel it, Jenna?
Absolutely.
And on that press, you're also going to feel a good strain on your deltoids or on your shoulders. And this really does maintain activation because you have to hold your hands up level with your body. It just maintains your activation of those, your scapus and your deltoids the whole time. Okay. Next is side wall climbs with overhead armbar. So for weights here, Jenna's going to demonstrate one set using either a weight, and then another one using our little bottle of water. And this movement here is going to help just mobilize that shoulder again after being tensed up with the opposite side. And then the other side is going to maintain its activation in an arm bar. So she's holding it up in full extension, maintaining that stability, and then getting a good stretch and mobilization movement on the other side. Jenna, are you feeling a burn in your shoulder?
I am.
Good. Now, I know these movements don't really match up with a lot of the traditional strength training that you'd see online if you were looking at videos, but this is where all the gains are made, is through these mobilization and stabilization exercises. They're also very good in injury prevention. They're strengthening up those joints and making sure that Jenna can keep racing for years to come. So here she's going to demonstrate it with the water bottle. Does it feel the same?
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay. Another thing that you can do to make this movement a little more difficult, if you don't have the weight, you can also add something, perturbations along with the movement. So if Jenna wasn't holding a weight, if you were working out with someone else, they could tap the arm in different directions, and they would have to stabilize the joint and making it stay in one spot. Yeah. So now Jenna's gonna rest that other shoulder and do some mobilization, getting that good stretch with those sidewall climbs, and then activate the opposite side. Jenna, what are some of the things that you focus on while you're doing this movement?
Yeah, honestly, I was going to say that when I'm holding the half gallon of the smoothie, you might notice that the water is kind of moving around. And so like that was something I was focusing on as well, stabilizing that arm. And so I also focus on getting a good stretch on my hand that's climbing as well. Yeah, a couple different things there.
Good. Now, normally in the gym, we would be playing some music, but this is actually really good. Jenna's getting some good quiet time to focus on those movements. And these movements are also possible if you need a chair that has a back. Just if you need that extra support, that's definitely acceptable. You can get the same out of those movements. Okay, we're going to move on to the force. So for day one, we're going to be going into some fairly basic force movements, and then on day two, we're going to add a slight progression just to show how we can up the difficulty for the movements that we're going to go through today. So Jenna's going to go into her push-up. So the first push-up she's just going to do on a flat ground, just a very level push-up. And obviously Jenna can also go, she can go on her knees or she can go on her feet. She's going to demonstrate it both ways. So she's going to do one set of 10 level. You can see she's doing a really good pause there at the bottom. And then it's very controlled in both directions. That's really important. Speed is definitely not necessary, especially if you're trying to, if push-ups are easy for you, the slower the better. It's going to add a lot more strain to your chest. Yeah. So there she's demonstrating it on the knees. We have athletes that do this on their knees. They'll widen their legs if they need a wider base of support. Sometimes in cases where their legs kind of flail out to the side, we'll put a strap around their legs, and that's another way to maintain balance and control through the movement. So now Jenna's going to go off of the bench. So she's going to be at a decline, or this would be mimicking an incline bench. So it's going to isolate the upper pec muscle or the upper chest muscle. And this is also a way for athletes to, if they're struggling with their balance or their postural strength, they can go into this type of decline push-up, and it'll allow for a much easier movement. So here we got, how many times a week should they be doing this training? Depending on when our athletes are, where our athletes are on, in their time of competition, because we do taper for competitions and stuff. This is a very basic workout. So we implement a similar workout 2 times a week. And then depending if it's a loading phase, if we're far off from competition, sometimes we'll do a 3-day-a-week training. Yeah, so that was a good question. What was that? Oh, okay. We skip that one? Okay, we can go back to that. We'll do that on preventative. So we'll just go into our bag tricep extension. So Jenna's going to go into her bag tricep extension. So normally in the gym, we would do this using cables. Sometimes we use dumbbells, but today Jenna's going to be using this duffel bag. So this is definitely something that you could do at home. If you don't have a duffel bag, you could also use a backpack. And we filled it with a whole bunch of different materials. We filled it with a couple of towels. I also put some balls in there, some weighted balls, whatever works for you. You can even fill it with some water bottles. So here Jenna's going to have her elbows pointing up to the sky. She's going into full extension over her head and coming down, getting a great range of motion there with her triceps. You can see here, she's getting a really good stretch in her triceps when she bends down behind her back, getting that full lengthening of the muscle, and then she's going to come in and that's a nice full contraction. Good. Now she's going to demonstrate it using the straps. Now here at U of I, we also do something called velocity training. Through the pandemic, we haven't been practicing it so much, so this is why we're showing you these exercises, but velocity training allows us to kind of train our athletes through high-speed movements. So a way for you to be able to implement that at home through slight progression, which I'll show you next week, is just more like faster contractional movement. So Jenna could do a fast contraction up and then nice and controlled coming down. And I don't recommend doing that right away, but that's another way for you to challenge the muscle and train it in a way where you're going to be able to push a certain weight at a higher velocity, which will help your overall performance. Okay, next it's the reverse fly. So for demonstration purposes, we actually haven't gone through and followed the rest. If you guys have been following the rest at home, that's good. If not, with our forced exercises, depending on the heaviness of the load, our rests are usually 45 to 60 seconds. If it's a very heavy week, sometimes our rests go into 1 minute to 2 minutes. But today, because we're focusing on more of the exercises and the movements, Jenna's not really lifting heavy weight, and she's demonstrating. So the rests aren't completely necessary. So here Jenna's doing a reverse fly. She's reaching her arm underneath the bench to try and get as much range of motion with her backs and her lat as possible. And she's doing her best to make sure that that weight stays a little bit off the ground. It's a little weird just because the bottle's off center with the liquid in there, but it's good. It adds a little bit of stabilization. So it's important. Now, if you have two of the same weights, you could definitely do this exercise doing both arms at a time. I like when athletes do things one arm at a time just because it allows for a better focus on the range of motion and the actual movement itself. But sometimes when you're short on time, you need to get through your workout, doing both arms at a time is totally fine. And after this, we're going to give Jenna a little break. We'll probably give her 45 to 60 seconds just so that she can rest a little bit. Yeah, if you have questions during that rest time, be sure to put that in the chat and I will do my best to answer every single one. Don't be shy. All right, nice job. So here at U of I, we do run on 3-week mesocycles with our strength training. So, and that does change depending on the time of year, but that's normally what it is. And that allows us to have a good progression with the athletes in terms of their strength training. Jenna, when we go through the year, what are like some of your favorite movements, like, and why?
Yeah, I think we're doing them right now, actually. I am not very good at bodyweight movements. I'm kind of a bigger athlete, so push-ups, pull-ups have always been a big, and dips have also been a big focus for me over the years. And I guess the big habit or the big trick to all of it is that it takes time and takes a lot of patience, and that's something I've had to work on over the years. And so I'm very thankful to have a facility here where we focus on those movements all throughout the year.
Right. And slow and steady.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to go into our preventative exercises. Cool. So Jenna's going to go into her, actually what we're going to do instead of going right into the preventative, we did skip over one mobilization exercise. That was my fault. So she's going to go into her alternate. Oh, we got some questions. Okay, so here's the first question. Do you do these kinds of strengthening exercises on easy days or speed work days? We do these types of exercises on every lift day. So it doesn't matter what time of year it is or what the goal is for our specific cycle. We go through the same mobility, stabilization exercises. Sometimes instead of preventative work, we'll add some postural work. The only things that do change are our force exercises, and that's when the load changes and the goal of those specific movements. So if we're trying to train for velocity, we'll lower the weight, train at a higher velocity, or we'll increase the weight to maintain a lower velocity. Okay, so the next question, should gym work remain throughout the year? Should it be done in stages? For example, track training in the summer and gym training over the winter. That's a great question. So we maintain our strength training all year round. Now it does change depending on the time of year. If it's marathon season coming up, we will taper. So we're not going to strain the athletes coming up to important events. We don't want to strain their nervous system or their muscles in general. So we will maintain those muscles, and we won't train them super hard. Now, if it's an off season, that's when we'll do higher load, but we want to make sure that we are maintaining these mobility stabilization exercises year round because they do aid in injury prevention and maintenance for the joints. So Jenna's going into her alternate backstroke pass behind the back. So this is like a rainbow on a different plane. So she's rotating her arm backwards, passing the weight behind her back. It's nice and slow movement. Now we were supposed to do this at the beginning of the workout again. So, but it does work as a good cool down, especially on a day where you're doing heavy load. It's good. It helps mobilize that shoulder joint and get a good stretch. Now through this movement, you can see her, she's activating her anterior delt, so the front of her shoulder, as she's lifting it forward. And then when she comes back behind the back, she's stretching it out. So just example, she's gonna lift up in front, she's activating the front of her shoulder. And then as she comes back and to pass behind, she's gonna stretch that delt. I get a much bigger stretch than she would, but she does these exercises twice a week, so. And I do encourage all of you to do some research and find more mobility stabilization exercises. If you get comfortable with these and you find they're not challenging or you're getting bored, don't be afraid to look things up online. A good resource is actually like baseball players. They use their shoulders all the time for throwing and things like that. And they have great exercises online for upper body and shoulder maintenance. Cool. So now we'll move into the preventative stuff. The first thing is ulnar nerve floss. So this is a very tricky movement. Jenna's been practicing it. She's going to show you using a discus, and she's also going to be showing you using a frisbee. The reason we implement an ulnar nerve floss into the preventative exercises, a little slower there, Jenna, is ulnar impingement in the wrist is very common with wheelchair track athletes. It's also very common in cyclists, and just that constant pressure down on that ulnar nerve in the wrist through constant and repetitive compression. It can cause a lot of inflammation and pain, sometimes numbness in the fingers. So this flossing technique helps glide the nerve through the different types of fossas and crevices that it runs through your arm, and it slides the nerve up and down through those crevices to maintain that lubrication and stretching of that nerve. So we have another question here. It's like, on strength training days, do we also do training in the racing chair? Yes. So those are 2 a day. So normally they would do their push in the mornings here at U of I, and then their strength training would be in the afternoon or a time when they have some space. It's never right after their lift. They do have some time to recover, and then they'll go into their lift later in the day. Again, it's only 2 times a week though that they'd have that. We still want to make sure that there's time for recovery. So here Jenna's doing a really good job. She's removed the frisbee to go through and to make sure that she can actually do the movement, and then she'll add that extra element of difficulty. So she's keeping her palm up, practicing the movement, and now she's going to challenge herself by putting it back on her hand. That's excellent.
A little bit tougher, in my opinion, it's a little bit tougher with the frisbee compared to the discus, because the discus does add a little bit of weight to carry through the movement.
Right.
You can also use paper plates as well.
Yeah,
right?
paper
So you
plates.
don't go frisbee
And if
ball.
your parents are totally fine with you using their fine china, that's totally fine too.
No, I would not recommend this.
This is one of my favorite movements. I do this all the time just because it feels good. Cool. Another bonus ulnar floss move that's actually not on the workout is something that I call the robin mask, where Jenna's gonna put her thumbs up, yeah, and hold that stretch. And that right there, that robin mask that she's putting on her face, that's another really good ulnar nerve stretch. And you can see her arms are shaking because she's getting a good stretch. And that's just another thing that you can do. You're good. Okay, next she's going to be doing full can. So she's going to be using the light dumbbells. Another thing that you can use at home are like, if you have like soup cans, yeah, that's a really good one. Soup cans. Hopefully you guys don't have cans of soda at home. But if you do, those will work too. I'm fancy. I always have like LaCroix at home. So you can definitely use cans of LaCroix. But the weight she's using right now are 3-pound dumbbells. So you want to try and mimic that 3 pounds. So here Jenna's focusing on just getting that movement, almost like a U motion, lifting her hands up. And she's keeping them very level, focusing on that movement. Okay, so here's another really good question. It's definitely not silly. It's if there's any neck strengthening exercises I could do after long pushes, I tend to get pretty bad pains down my neck into my traps due to the racing position. I've tried doing more trap workouts to see if that helps. It did to an extent, but there's any more neck exercises. So we do have some neck exercises. We'll get Jenna to do them right now after this. I do recommend implementing more stretches and heat. Those are kind of the best things to do if your neck is sore. I wouldn't. Yeah, so Jenna's doing a trap stretch right there. She's putting downward pressure on the side of her head there to strengthen her, to stretch her trap. I don't recommend doing any strenuous activity or strength training if you do have tightness in your neck or traps, just because that's going to add to the strain and inflammation that's going on there. Instead of doing that, I'd recommend aiding in the recovery process. So using heat, ice if the pain is really bad to like decrease the inflammation, and then heat 20 minutes afterwards to help in the recovery process. Another thing that we do is a neck circuit. So she'll touch her chin down to her head, and that's a hold for 10 seconds. And then after 10 seconds, she'll tilt to the left. And then she'll also go to the right. And then on those left and right stretches, she can also try and look down a little bit. And that'll help in that stretch as well. These are the type of movements that I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend increasing the amount of strain that's on the neck. You're training your neck every time you're pushing in your chair, especially when you're doing outdoor training and you have to look where you're going. So just focus on the recovery process. Your neck's going to get strong all by itself. Do we have any more questions? So just again, everything that we went through today for today's strength workout. We went through 5 mobility exercises. All the mobility exercises were 1 by 15. We had a back versus wall rainbow, pillow foam roll IYTs, foam rolls alternate high-low, alternate backstroke, pass behind the back, military stretch versus wall. Those 5 exercises don't have any rest in between. We have our 3 stabilization exercises, bear crawl, scap protraction, retraction, prone dowel shoulder press, side wall climbs with overhead arm bar. Those have 30-second rests in between. And then we have 3 force exercises, which are push-up, bag tricep extension, and bag bottle reverse fly, and 2 preventative exercises, ulnar nerve floss and full can. Now, if you look at these exercises, what I would say is that we do focus a lot on posterior work, which means on the back, on the scaps. And the reason for that is you're pushing all day, especially if you're a wheelchair user, you're pushing all day, you're pushing in your chair, you're doing a lot of front or anterior work with your chest, your anterior delts, which is the front of your shoulders. So we try to pull back those shoulders, open everything up, helps prevent any type of bicipital impingement, which is like a nerve or a tendon impingement that can happen at the front of the shoulder. So our goal is always to do more posterior work in the gym because all your anterior work is done on daily movements and sport-specific training. Okay, the next question that I have here is, do you have specific reason for the number of reps for each type of exercise, and does that change through the year? Yes, it does change through the year, depending on whether we're tapering or not. It also varies, for this is a good example. Today we only did 2 sets for our force training. We rarely do 2 sets unless we're tapering for something or it's a recovery day. It's usually three sets. Sometimes we'll up that to 4 sets depending on the time of year. It relies a lot to do with your training principles and what stage you're at in the year. But our reps do vary and our sets do vary. For mobility, we tend to stick to the rule of 1 by 15, 1 set of 15 reps for mobility. Stabilization, it's usually like 2 by 8, just so that we don't fatigue the muscle through those stabilization exercises. Next question, some athletes do complain about shoulder and back pain during a workout. What can we do to minimize the issue? So for shoulder and back pain during the workout, Jenna, how do you deal with it during the workout?
Well, I think you push through.
You push through it, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that these exercises that we went through today are really going to help strengthen and stretch those muscles, and that should help prevent any kind of pain or discomfort in the future during workouts. Right.
No, that's a good answer. So we're always trying to making it go away during the training is never it's kind of something that they're going to have to fight through. It's something that all the athletes have to fight through. The key is to make sure that you go through different mobility exercises and stabilization exercises for the shoulder joints. Stretches are really important. And then after your exercises, you want to make sure that you're putting on heat and cold. I just want to thank you guys for joining us for our strength training workout for our virtual wheelchair track camp. Jenna,
thank you.
Jenna killed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again for day 2 lift. Thanks for joining us.